just had some. That's what made me think of it. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms?
DoorDash and wings.
What's that?
Yeah, DoorDash and wings.
Yeah. No, I care. Yes.
Why do people create so many details for their lives?
How do you mean?
Well, people make their lives to make life easier, not to make life easier. Usually they make life easier if they don't want to give any permissions.
Oh, yeah.
But yet they give so many details into their lives, the information would have been just as long.
Yeah. So when we say things that make life simpler, I'm thinking back to people I've known. It's been more than once. Just so I don't feel like an asshole. Anybody here ever been told that? But have any of you in here ever had someone tell you that they love you and you're just like, and you don't love them back and you're just like, neat, I love you. That's so sweet.
Yes.
Oh.
Uncle. Yes.
Let me get you some wings or like that. Okay, so I'm not the only asshole. Now, what can you say in response?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, dog. I appreciate that. Yeah, or, by the way, what kind of a fight are you in for at that point?
A very long.
Yeah, especially if it's someone that you're dating, not just someone who's telling you they like you. If it's someone that you're already dating and they're telling you, I'm in love with you, and you're like, ah. And they're like, so anything you want to say? I just want to say I think you're wonderful. Fantastic. I'm blessed every day to know you. But you're in for a fight. What would be the easier thing to do?
Just say the truth.
I love you too. Oh, do you really?
No.
Uh-huh. Maybe. I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that we say like that. Like, I love you is something that we say to make things simpler. This was actually a pretty good one too, right off the bat. I'm happy. How are you today? I'm good.
I'm fine.
No, you're not fine. You're not good. You're not fine. I had a student a few years ago now who she looked very happy. She looked very happy. And anybody people who interacted with her would say, if you asked her, tell me about so-and-so. And I actually asked her, what do you think, if you were to die today, what do you think people would say about you? And she said at her funeral, she thinks that people from all over her life would say, I'm happy. They would say, so-and-so, she was just a happy girl. She really was a happy girl. And I asked her, what's something that you would want people to know about you? And she stopped and she's looking down, she's thinking about it, which is good. And she says, I want people to know how sad I am. And what brought about this conversation was, I recognized it in her. You can see it if you're really looking. If you're really looking at people, people will give away who they really are. Even just for a brief minute. We all wear masks. Some are more beautiful than others, but they all get tiresome after a while. Once in a while when you have a mask on, even on Halloween you have to put the mask back on. And it's in those moments of this that you can see in people what they're really feeling, what they're really going through, if you're watching, if you're paying attention. The truth of the matter is that most of us are too wrapped up in our own lives, and there's nothing wrong with that. Your life is your life to live as you choose, as you wish. Remember, selfishness isn't living as you want to live. It's expecting others to live the way that you want them to live. But if you are a student of people and you're watching, you can see it. I can see it as I look at some of your faces. Some of you guys are 18 going on 60, man. If you know what I mean by that. And some of you guys are 18 going on 9. It's true. You can see it if you're paying attention to it. Some of you guys have seen some things, some of you guys have experienced some things, and some of you have not. And you're all equally valuable. It isn't a matter of like, wow, you're too sheltered. No, I would that you would stay as sheltered as possible for as long as possible. The world's going to be there when you get there. You don't need to encounter it when you're 7, But anyway, she was saying that that's the one thing that she wished that people knew about her, that she was sad. And it's because that was something that defines her character, it defines her character in a certain way, I might say, And again, like in talking with her, I talked to her for a bit, and after like a few weeks of kind of interactions, you could tell, like when she would smile from time to time, but there was nothing there, And then when she smiled for real, you could see it. And it was almost like a gift because she doesn't give that to everybody. She gives this to everybody. She doesn't give the actual, real smile to everybody. And some of you are like that. Some of you have been in here and I've never seen you smile. I've seen you smile, but I've never seen you smile. And some of you in here, I've seen you smile, and it's neat because it almost looks uncomfortable, like you're not used to doing it in certain ways, you know? And I dig that. I dig that. I'm happy that there's a place that you can go to smile. Because even if, and I mean this truly with all the love in the world, even if you fail the class, I don't think of it as a loss if you've been able to go somewhere in school and get some kind of a laugh out of it somewhere, in some way, or to get, you know, some level of enjoyment out of it, or to learn a little something here or there, whatever. You know, your grades are your grades, man. Especially at this point, they're kind of, you know, for the most part, they're in the past. Even this year's grades, and it's not going to stay with you. You know, 2 years from now, none of you will remember what grade you got in this class. You will not remember what grade you got in this class. But I hope there's a good story somewhere in there, though. Something that made you laugh, something that made you learn something. You know, even if you just remember, here's that guy who always wore boots. And I mentioned boots because I just got new boots. So I'm waiting for someone to mention my new boots. I appreciate it. They're goat skin. That means I'm going to go to a petting zoo and talk shit to the goats. How do you feel about that? Just wearing human skin boots. But yeah, man, some of you is like, I don't know. Some of you is like, it's almost like you're human, you know? Almost. We're getting there, yeah.
Question, well, sometimes isn't it like good to lie to yourself? Like, what I mean is like, let's say you want to you're kind of scared to do something that you've never done, but that could also come with your changing your mentality. Oh, I mean, if you think you can do it, but you're also lying to yourself, you're like, I could do it. Like, I know I can, but you deep inside of you, you know you can't. But don't you think it's kind of good also, that you know that you can do it, but you're still thinking, oh, I'm gonna be able to do it, because I feel like that changes your actions and the way you play it off. Something that
I get what you're saying. It would be better if you told yourself the truth and did it anyway. Yeah, a brave person is a coward who moves forward anyway. Think of fear like, if I moved those baskets and I waited by the door, and then somebody came in, and as they opened the door, I went, ah! and they jumped. I didn't scare them. I startled them. It's a difference. You know, I don't know who the UFC heavyweight champion is. I don't know who it is. Let's say he was coming through the door, and I jumped out at him and startled him. Would I sit there and go, he's afraid of me? No, I startled him. That's all it is. That's all it is. But sometimes there's a fear that can be inside you because fear reflects a number of things. So fear reflects your awareness of consequences. If you really believe that, if I don't know, I'm trying to think of something less dramatic than D-Day, but this, D-Day when they're storming the beaches, and I'm thinking about that because I remember a quote from a man who was asked how it felt to be a hero. Long story. He was at D-Day and he said, "I wasn't a hero. I was a coward who kept moving forward." That's where I get the idea from. And if you told that guy, if that guy was on the boat and he thought, "Hey, this is like a video game. In other words, if I die, I'm just going to respawn," and he goes charging up the beach, would we look at him and go, "That man's brave"? No, we would say that man's under a delusion. He's not living in the real world. He's living according to the rules of something completely different. He's not brave. If that guy sits there and you look at him and he's got pee coming down his leg, and he's like, "I just might be dying here today," and he can count down in his head 59, 58, 57, 56, and he can realize he may have less than a minute of life left in him, and yet he marches forward anyway. There's some courage there. And again, that's different from being rash. Oh, there are 9 machine guns trained on this door that once it opens up, they're going to kill you. Whatever. That's rashness. In other words, you're not acknowledging the consequences. To be aware of the consequences and push forward anyway. That's bravery. That's bravery. And so we should be aware of the consequences because, by the way, that's also going to cost us something. And when something costs us, we appreciate it. If you know that this thing could take you out and you move forward anyway, my goodness, You appreciate it. And that's something to be admired. And by the way, that means that person can come back and tutor the rest of us, teach the rest of us, and it gives us something to aspire to. I mean, if the person is delusional and and believes that they're inside of a video game rather than on the actual D-Day, what can you learn from that person? Not to take drugs, I guess? But you can't learn character from that person. And that means the person can't be a hero, because a big part of what it is to be a hero is to be able to go out, overcome something, that's important, and also to come back and tell you about it. Overcoming is not just winning. It usually is. But it's also overcoming all of those things inside of you: fear, doubt, guilt, self-esteem. To be able to look at all those things and say, yeah, I'm going anyway. But how do you do that? You put your head down and you go. You look at, you can see it, you can watch, I just mentioned like the UFC heavyweight champion. Any of you guys watch MMA? You guys watch the UFC? You ever watch it? Watch sometime when they get into the ring, when they're making the announcements, and look at the person's face when the camera's going around them. I would suggest to you that if you really study their face, 75% of the time, you know who's going to win that fight based off of the things that you can see, but maybe you can't explain. In other words, when you go in there, they're both scared. Whether anybody who says they get in the ring and they're not scared, they're lying to you. Or they're psychotic. Because
Mike Tyson.
Tyson said he was scared too. He said that's the thing that drove him to train, because he's expected to knock somebody out in 60 seconds. And his thing was, what if I ever lost? But that's what motivated him to train so much. It's like Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali said he hated every single minute of training. But that's why when he got into press conferences, he ran his mouth so much. Because he knew that if he ran his mouth so much, that would force him to go in the gym and have to train a whole bunch. Because he couldn't stand to lose. Because after talking so much shit, you better not lose. So that's because he hated training so much, he had to have an external motivation like that. Tyson's thing was he didn't want to ever have to go back to what he grew up in. That was his thing. It was the fear of having to go back. It was the fear of, and by the way, it was also the fear of failing his trainer, Customato. He was afraid of letting him down. Customato was Tyson's trainer. He met Mike Tyson. He was like 15 years old. And he was a dropout already. He was a criminal record. He was a hoodlum. And he met Cuss, this frail old white guy who had this like weird style of boxing. And he saw something in Tyson, and Tyson saw something in him, and Customato ended up adopting him, brought him into his house. 15-year-old kid, dropout, criminal record. Customato said, everyone deserves another chance. Come on. Dropped everything, brought him into his house with his family, and gave him another chance. Tyson did not want to let that guy down. And Tyson was undefeated until Cuss died. When Cuss was no longer around, that was no longer his motivation. That's when he lost to Buster Douglas. So sometimes that's the fear that keeps you going. It's a fear of loss. It's a fear of looking bad in front of the people who admire you. It's a fear of letting yourself down, letting people down. And you'll find out if you really look at when you've lost something or you failed something, it'd be interesting to look at and figure out what is it that bothers me so much about it. Yeah, it's embarrassing, but is it also because you let people down? Is it also because you let yourself down? Is it because, like one of my students was in a tournament a few weeks ago, a couple months ago now, and I wasn't there for it. It's a long story, but one of my other coaches went and cornered him, and he lost. And I sent him a message afterwards and just said, hey bro, I heard you were in there, you fought today, way to be out there. And he wrote back a message, very apologetic, and he said he says, I'm just embarrassed I lost. I'm like, dude, embarrassed for who? You got out there, you wore our insignia, you competed well, you didn't give up, you fought hard, you trained for it, you win some and you learn some. You get back out there and you learn something, and next time you'll do it again. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. 90% of the people who do this stuff never get out there to actually fight and compete and put it all on the line. You had the courage to do that. And he's telling me, I was scared the whole time. Of course you were. So was the other person. But you have to push past that. You have to overcome that. Otherwise, the only place you're ever, because where is fear going to keep you except at home? And if the meaning and the purpose of your life was at your house, you would have found it already. Because I'm sure you've explored your house, right? Yeah, do that. If you haven't, go home today. Move all the furniture and look for your purpose. Look for your meaning in life. It's not here. If it's not here, guess where it must be? somewhere out there, somewhere beyond the explored world. That's what it is to be heroic, to move past the explored world, courageously, knowing that there are monsters out there. You ever see those old maps, and they have like the oceans, and it shows like sea monsters and dragons out there? If you're looking, if not, I'll bring up a map. That essentially is like them saying like, oh, that's exactly what it says. There are sea monsters out there that will sink your ship. What was sinking their ships? Probably rogue waves. Who knows? Bad things are out there. But what do? You go out there anyway. What's out there? Don't know, haven't been there. I mean, really think about it. We started in Africa, and we were around for quite a while, like 100,000 years, living just fine south of the Sahara. And all of a sudden there was one dude who's like, what's out there? And they're like, nothing. How do you know? Well, no one's ever been there. And so he like grabs a canteen of water, he's like, well, I'm gonna go. And he walks out there, and he probably dies. Because he's the first one to ever do it. He probably didn't respect the consequences of it. Somebody else probably looked out there and was like, I can't even see the end of this desert. I'm going to take a whole bunch of water. He's afraid, but he's going anyway, but he's also respecting the consequences of it. And so respecting the consequences helps him be successful. Now he's not going to be as vulnerable to them. And then you fast forward, and here we are, all this time later. There was like one dude, one girl, somebody just said like, I'm going for this. And they went anyway, while they were afraid. And that's so much of life. Because the thing is, you're going to face life anyway. You guys are going to be out of here soon. And you're going out into the real world, whatever that means. Whether you want to or not. Some of you are being forced out there if you haven't already. Any of you guys have parents that are Spartan kick you out the door once you're done here? Once you turn 18, they're just going to kick you out. Some of you, by the way, are going to be 28, and your parents are going to be pulling you back inside the house as hard as you're trying to leave. They're going to force you to come back inside because they don't want you to leave. And some of you will be kind of in that middle ground. But I promise you that the meaning and the purpose of your life is probably not inside your house. Otherwise, you would have found it already. That's why, like in the morning, when especially now, right? It's all cold outside, but it's so warm inside your bed. And my alarm goes off every morning at 5:35. And as soon as my alarm goes off, the blanket monsters attack me. You all know what the blanket monsters are. Those are the blankets that hold you down as hard as you're trying to fight. They just hold you down. And then I have two other ginger blanket monsters that then come in as soon as the alarm goes off. One's named Theodore, the other one's named Bonnie. And they come in, my cats, and they start to nuzzle, and they get close, and they start to burrow in. And they're so cute, and I'm so warm. And we don't have to be here till 8:30 anyway. I've got 3 hours. Why am I in such a rush? Well, I'm in such a rush because as a human being, I have to do what my nature demands. What my nature demands is not in that bed. It's out here in the world. Your meaning and your purpose is probably not in your bed. Wouldn't it be great if it was, though? We'd all have meaningful lives. But it's out there. It's in the unexplored areas. And the things I can promise you, the things that you most need to find in life, you're going to find them in the places that you least want to look. But you look anyway. You respect the consequences of it, but you look anyway. And that's courageous. Others? Happy Friday, huh? Well, there is good news. I'm just kidding.